Today is January 23rd. You're staying in an igloo, huh?
It's this thing called Base Camp Borealis. It's an igloo, but it's an igloo shape. We were looking at it. It's not like it's made out of ice.
So it's really like a Holiday Inn, right? They just cover up the sign.
Yeah, sort of, but it does have a it must be a plexiglass rounded top, so you can basically lay in bed and look up at the stars.
Glamping meets like igloo.
You know, when you're from Bellevue, you just have certain expectations in life.
Right. It's like, okay, this is better. When she said igloo, I was thinking, well, how do they do this? It's gonna be cold in there. It's ice.
It is.
Okay, and that's a perfect segue into our reason that we're here today. Karma, the Does It Pencil Basic Money course. I really hope this thing goes well. I'm pretty damn excited about it. And a couple of you were gracious enough to take a look at bits and pieces and help me out. And we're going to take a look at that later. So the course now is complete. And it's complete subject to minor revisions that people might suggest today. Or I have a group of people who I call my test pilots who now have it, and they're going to be a little more detailed in their review and get back to me next couple of days. But notwithstanding that, it's done.
Isn't it like a week or 2 weeks total from the inception of it to completion?
It took about a week.
That's crazy. Jeez.
Well, I didn't work on it all
Well
day.
done.
I mean,
No, I mean, that's wicked fast.
oh, okay.
Wicked fast.
That is
Yeah.
pretty fast. Well, it's like anything else, if you do IRR 10,000 times, you can do it pretty fast.
Wow.
Got it.
But, let me just say something about that. Okay. That's actually, it's a very pertinent comment. One of the things that I talk about in the course at the beginning is just clarity. Okay. And what I mean by that is knowing who you are, knowing where you are. And of course, that's in the context of money. But in the context of my career, and I appreciate your compliment, Kelly. Thank you. I take it with all humility. But that said, I've been doing this for 35 years. I should know how to do this. And I've carried the torch of video. I've taught some of you how to do video. So it's just a melding of those two skills,
Mm-hmm.
The trick, the hard part for me is figuring out the curriculum.
Yes.
And what I talked about in the video, and I still believe this is, and a lot of it came from you guys, by the way, so thank you so much. You guys were a lot of the inspiration for doing this. I haven't said
Mm-hmm.
that, but you have taught me what is the disparity between what people don't know and what they should know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I've tried to pick 6 of those topics and squeeze them into a 1-hour box.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a basic course. It's not designed to go in depth. That'll come later in the new Does It Pencil. But thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let's cue up video number 4. Get that ready. We'll watch that next. What I want to talk to you about next is slanted more toward the investing side of money. Okay. I want to talk to you a minute about 2 phenomenon in the world of finance: compounding and inflation. So let's talk about inflation first. What is inflation? Now, just that question alone opens the door to a whole bunch of politics, which we're not going to do today. I will tell you about the cause of inflation, but I don't want to make it a political football. Inflation is quite simply this: dollars in the future are worth less than dollars today. Now, that's kind of a weird definition that some economists made up, okay? So let me show you a simple example just to illustrate. So let's say that I give you $100 today, and you say, awesome, thanks for the $100. And you take that money, you go out, let's say you buy a pair of shoes for $100. You're like, great, got $100, bought a pair of shoes, everybody's happy, okay? But let's say that instead of spending that $100 on a pair of shoes, you just put the $100 in your pocket, okay? And let's say that you live in a world, just use a simple example, where inflation is reported at 5%. So what that would mean is that $100 in 1 year, if inflation was 5%, would be worth not $100, it'd be worth $95. Now, you'd still look at the $100 bill and go, but wait a minute, I have $100, and that's true. But now that pair of shoes, instead of be $100, would be $105 just to keep pace with inflation. So you lost 5% of your purchasing power, and that's what inflation does. Okay, dollars are worth less in the future because of the loss of purchasing power. Now let's say that instead of buying a pair of shoes, and instead of putting it in your pocket, you took that money and you put it into an account that paid you, let's say, 5%. So that $100, after 1 year, if it went up 5%, you would have $105. And you think to yourself, awesome, I have $105. It's true. But if you're also in an inflationary environment, it's still only worth what $100 was a year ago. So one of the ways to combat inflation is by investing your money so that it compounds at least at the rate of inflation. I'll talk about that in just a minute, okay? But let me just finish up this section by giving you a non-political, very honest definition of how inflation really works. Inflation happens when there's more money in the system than there is goods and services. More money in the system than there is available goods and services. So the most recent phenomenon we have of inflation was post-COVID, right after COVID. Now let's just think for a minute what happened during COVID, right? The whole world went into lockdown for like a year and a half, depending on where you were. And at least in America, during that same period of time, the government put $7 trillion into the economy, but we didn't make anything. We didn't do anything. We just sat home and we said, thanks for the money. I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating here, but you get the point. So as we started coming out of lockdown, people had all this money. We didn't have any stuff. And that's why we got inflation. In this place called the real world where we all live, we are just entering the next phase of wealth transference, which will be the largest wealth transference ever in human history. We've been in it for a while with the WW2s to the boomers, and now it's the boomers to whatever. I never get this right. Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, I never know. But those people, I'm not one of them.
The kids.
The kids, yeah. So a generation is technically 20 years, and every 20 years we have this transference. So that's a good point. Thank you.